It's Shaheen from Motocorsa, and I'm here today to go over the 2021 Ducati Multistrada V4S, and primarily we're going to talk about the functionality of the dashboard. So follow along. I'll go as slowly as possible so that you can learn as much as possible, and you can always revisit this video. So if you have any questions, hopefully I'll cover everything for you. So on the handlebar of the 2021 Multistrada, you've got two sides, right and left. On the right side, you've got the functionality of the heated grip, which sits up here, and then obviously on-off switch for the motorcycle, and then the daytime running lamp switch, which allows you to turn it on and off if you don't have it set up to automatic settings. On the left side of the handlebar, you have a lot more buttons. You've got your hazard switch, which is right here. You've got your passing switch. When you pull it in, it'll turn on the lights, the high beams momentarily. When you push it forward, it'll turn on the high beams indefinitely. You've got a plus and minus button, which we'll go over later on when they release the US spec cruise control setup for the radar activated cruise control. You have your preload button, you have your mode button, which allows you to go through all the different riding modes in the bike. Your turn signal has its own switch now. It used to be a switch that did multiple jobs, but now it's just for the turn signal. You have this joystick, which really lets you go through all the functionality of the screen, and it goes up, down, left, right, and then you have the horn. Okay, so a lot of the functions on the dash are going to be used with the joystick on the left-hand side of the handlebar. So we're going to use that to go up and down and through the different menus on here. If you notice on the screen here, you have a window on the top left, and there's a window on the bottom left, and you can just scroll through them with the joystick. So if I just went down or up on the joystick, if you look on the dash, you'll notice it is just simply scrolling through everything. If you hold the joystick down for about 2 seconds, it'll pop itself down and highlight the lower screen, which goes through your mileage, your range, your instant. So all I'm doing is up and down on the joystick, and it lets me scroll through this. And there's no ending to it. It just keeps indefinitely going through everything. So you've got total miles, range, trip 1, consumption, average. So the average consumption, average speed, trip 1 time, trip 2, and then instant consumption and total mileage. Now, trip 1 is what will dictate what your consumption is, your time is, your speed is. So if you were to zero it out, like we're going to go on trip 1, press in on the joystick. It'll ask you if you want to reset it, hit yes. Now, if you notice, everything's been zeroed out. So trip 1, 0, trip time is zeroed out, and that's all based on trip 1. If you want to zero out trip 2, you simply go to it, put it in the center, press the joystick in. It'll ask you if you want to reset it. If you don't want to do it, you press the joystick to the right. If you want to do it, you leave it on yes and press in on the joystick, and now everything's zeroed out. So again, that's going to be your functionality in the bottom left side screen on the dash. Now, if we want to go back up to the top functions, we're going to press up on the joystick for a couple of seconds, and boop, we're there. So now, this is where the majority of the functionality where people may get confused on lives. You have what's called the setting menu. This is the spot that lets you kind of fine-tune a lot of different things on the motorcycle. Once you press in on the joystick on the setting menu, it goes to a whole different screen. Now you have, I'm going to scroll through them. So you've got things like riding mode. This is where you're going to change how each riding mode is set up. Ducati does a really good job of setting up a factory setting, but we're all motorcyclists and like to change these, so they let us play with them. I'll go over that here in a little bit. Your info display, I'll go into there. So there's different ones, and that lets you customize every single one of these bits of info and how it's being portrayed to you on the screen. Remember, in Ducati world, there's no such thing as a wrong answer when you set something up on the dash. If you don't like it, you can always go back to default, and it'll set you back to default settings. I'm going to hit right on the joystick, back to here, the info display, fuel indicator. You can have it only show you range or level. DRL stands for daytime running lamp. These motorcycles have a beautiful bright DRL up front. Like I explained earlier, you can turn it on and off with the switch on the right handlebar, but inside the actual settings menu, when you go into DRL, it's going to give you the option of having it manual or auto. For whatever reason, out of the factory, they're all set at the manual setting, which means when when it gets dark outside, it won't automatically turn your lights on. So if you go up on the joystick and just press it in once, it'll set it to auto. From here on out, when you turn the motorcycle on, if the sensor realizes that it's dark out, it'll turn your headlights on for you. Pretty neat to have that if you tend to be forgetful, because the DRLs are pretty bright and some people think they just have dim headlights at night. So make sure you're checking your headlights before you take off, and check on your motorcycle whether it's set up on auto or manual. We're going to go left on the joystick, go down to backlight. Backlight lets you choose how bright or dim your backlight on this screen is. A lot of people like to have it at 100. You can leave it there. Some people have more sensitive eyes, so they like it on lower. Pin code. This is very important. These motorcycles are a keyless motorcycle, so all you have to do is have the key fob on your body within about 5 feet of the motorcycle. You can turn the bike on and off. However, key fobs have a tendency of losing their battery power after 3 or 4 years of use. So make sure you have a pin code here that and you can remember. If you press it in here, it'll allow you to modify the pin. If you press that, it'll ask you what the current pin is, and then from there you can add your own. From the factory, it should be 000, and it's correct. So now you can go in there and add a new one. So I'm just going to leave it at 000 and save. All I did to do that was press the joystick in, and it goes through what the button numbers are. If you want to change it, you go up and down on the joystick and then press it in, and it'll let you go to the next one. So date and time, a good dealership should have that set up for you, but sometimes they forget it. So you can set the date, set the date format on how you want it, whether it's day, month, year, or month, date, year. Set the time, and then time format, whether you want it 24 hours or 12 hours. I personally like the 24-hour one. That's what I'm used to. So to me, 1 p.m. is 1300 o'clock, and the bike shows it accordingly. So we've set this one at 12 hours since most people are comfortable with that. So again, if you want to change that, you press in on the joystick, and now you can choose 24-hour or 12, whichever one you pick. Press in on the joystick, and that's the one that it'll keep. I'll go left on the joystick to get out of there. Service is something you don't really need to deal with. That's going to be for the service department whenever you take it there, so they can reset the warning light that'll come on here when it's time to do an oil change or an annual service. Lap time is just exactly what that is. It's for going and doing track days. That's right. Your Ducati Multistrada can handle a track day. I know this from experience, although not on the V4 yet, but I'm excited to put it there and see what it's all about. So tire calibration is for when you're changing your tires. If you want to go to a slick or if you want to go to a knobby tire, allows you to go in here and change that. This is going to be something for service department to do, so it allows you to start it through here. They go through the process and get that done for you, so the bike's sensors and speedometer all work properly. Bluetooth. This is an important one for a lot of people because these motorcycles have a function where you can connect your telephone, your headset, and have GPS show up on the screen. So we'll go over that here in a little bit as well. When you press into it, it'll allow you to go into pairing mode or to see what devices are paired. Again, you're going to press in on the joystick. Currently no device is paired, so I'm going to go left, go up, hit pairing, and then you'll tell it to look up a phone, rider 1 or rider 2. So I'm going to tell it phone, and I'm going to go into the settings function of my phone itself, and so it found my phone immediately. So I'll press in on that, and it's pairing. And so you'll see this number 26, it'll change every time, but it also did that on my phone. I'll hit pair and accept on here, and now my phone is paired. It'll tell you right there. So in case you were wondering, if you go out of here, go into pairing mode versus paired device, now you can look it up and it'll show that my phone is what's paired with the motorcycle. Down to turn signals. You can choose whether it'll automatically shut off for you, just in case you're the type of person who forgets that their turn signals are on or off, or you can just put it on manual. I tell people to leave it on auto. Pick the language that you like everything to be on here. Measurement units, miles per hour versus kilometers, Fahrenheit versus Celsius. You can set all that up. And then info, just basically tells you what your battery's setting at and what kind of RPM the bike's sitting on. Currently the bike's off, so we're just sitting here at 12.4. It's a fresh, brand new battery, so looking good. And then back down to riding mode. So next I'm going to go through the riding mode setup. So in riding mode setup, once I'm here, I'm going to press in on the joystick and it'll give us the 4 different options of riding modes that these motorcycles have. The Multistradas have Sport, Touring, Enduro, and Urban. And then again, default is there just in case you've made a bunch of changes and you don't like it. If you press the default button here on the riding mode base menu, it'll just simply change all of the riding modes into the default factory setting. So if we went to hit default here, it'll tell you to wait. And now it's restored. Everything is back to factory setting. If you want to change each one of these, you can really get pretty granular with it. So we'll go into sport mode. And now you'll see Ducati's done a really cool job of having a little drawing there of the motorcycle itself, so you can have an idea of what you're looking to work with here. So if you have it on engine, engine's highlighted, traction control, rear wheels highlighted, ABS, the brakes get highlighted, wheelie control, it shows you the bike kind of being set down, quick shift, the little lever is highlighted on the shifter, suspension, and then preload, which is just going to be for how much weight you want to put on the bike. Engine, we're back to that again. So if you go to engine, there are several different options here. You have high, medium, or low. Each one of these has a very unique sensation. The high is going to be all the power right now. Medium has full power, but it's a smoother onset of power. It's not hitting you so hard. Really, really popular to have it on touring mode. I always tell people, just imagine you have the bike fully loaded and you're about to get on the highway after you've gassed it up and you need to get in front of that 18-wheeler, but also don't need to do a wheelie. So this is a much smoother delivery of power. When you go into low, it's the base amount of power. It's usually around 100 horses on this motorcycle and super smooth. So this is really popular for urban settings or enduro settings where you don't need 170 horsepower. It's more about traction and accessibility to that power. In sport mode, most of us like it on high, so we'll go ahead and hit high. Go back left. So we're still in the sport mode setting. Traction control out of the box is going to be at 4. Some people like it at 3 or 2. As you go through this, you'll see that it's highlighting different spots. So if you're at 1, it's for off-road and performance. Off-road doesn't necessarily mean just on gravel or dirt. It could mean the track. 2 is off-road, it's more of a safe, stable. From what I understand, on 1, it'll allow maybe 2 full revolutions of the rear tire before it kicks on the traction. So you have 8 different settings of traction. 8 is just the most conservative, for wet, super cold, wet conditions. And again, on sport mode, most people tend to be around 3 or 4. So I'll leave it at 3 here. Go left. ABS, again, you have a couple of different options. You have 1, 2, and 3. So on 2 and 3, if you notice, it's got cornering ABS ability. This motorcycle has an IMU, inertia measurement unit, and it is reading how deep you are into a turn, how much power you're putting on, how much tire slippage there is, and you can give it maximum brake, and the bike will calculate exactly how much braking you need for that specific instance so that it doesn't do a low side or a high side. And so you're, hopefully stopping safely if something major happens mid-turn. So out of the box, it is set at 2. 1 is for race purposes. It's going to be basically front wheel ABS only, or off-road in this case. Front wheel ABS only, rear wheel does not have ABS. So on sport mode for the street, we typically leave it at 2. It's still got plenty of progressive braking without it being really in the way. Ducati wheelie control. Again, many options between 1 to 8. 8 being the most conservative for most safety. And as you can see, the little slider is going from performance to safe. If you go up, as you go down in the numbers, it goes more towards performance. And you can actually turn it off where there's no wheelie control at all. And it's just based on your ability to do that. So again, be super safe doing this. Out of the box for sport mode, typically it's on 3 or 2. This allows for the front end to come up, have a little bit of fun times, but it'll bring it down pretty slowly. So we'll leave it at, actually it was on 2, I think, out of the box, so we'll put it on 2. Again, we're going to go left. Ducati quick shift. I don't really see any reason to turn this off, but you can turn it on or off. If it's on, as long as you're giving it positive throttle, you can kick it upwards after first gear and it'll automatically switch gears for you. On downshifts, when you kick it down without using the clutch, it will auto rev match for you. So on slowing down, it'll allow you to have a smooth slowdown with the engine brake as well. If you need to pass somebody, when you're going positive throttle input, it'll auto rev match and put you at a higher RPM. So it's almost like having a paddle shifter in a performance car. The only difference is that on first gear, you're still going to need the clutch, but after that, you can basically clutchless shift. So again, you can turn it on or off. It's such a smooth process. I don't really see why anybody would ever turn it off unless you're super old school and you really like just using the clutch all the time. So it is there for you to decide how you want to do it. Suspension setting. You can get into the front or rear suspension to really get very granular and do it how you want. You can see on factory setting on sport mode, front suspension set at medium. You can go to soft to softest or hard to hardest. I think it all depends on the kind of riding you like to do and what weight you are and how you like to load the motorcycle. So they allow you to have control over that. So we'll leave this on medium. If you go to rear, same idea. Again, from softest to hardest, we're going to leave it on medium. It's sort of safe. I'm not well versed enough in suspension language to be able to really get granular on this, but ultimately you want the motorcycle to have a safe suspension setting so that there is always traction with the ground. So don't necessarily go super hard just because you like the way it feels. You may lose some traction. So sort of listen to the bike, work with it for a little while, and do a little bit of studying before you get really crazy on this stuff. So we'll leave this on medium for now. And then once we get out of suspension, we'll go to preload. This is going to be where you want to set it up on how it feels when you have the motorcycle loaded up. So the motorcycle has 4 different preload options: rider, rider bags, rider passenger, and bags. So as you go into each one of these, you can sort of set where you want the preload to be in each riding mode. So on sport mode, out of the factory, they're saying leave it at 16 clicks. You can change that. You can go harder and heavier if you want to, but again, make sure you're not putting too much or too little on there so that the bike's not being bogged down too much, nor is it being too harsh of a ride for you. They do a pretty good job of setting it. Sometimes you're a little bit heavier, like myself. I'm 235 pounds, so I like to have a little bit higher preload on my motorcycle on the single rider setting. So I would probably leave it at like a 17, maybe an 18. So again, I'm going to press in on the joystick. You can see it changed the number on the right side here. We'll go back to the left, and you can change that on each one of them for the specific riding style that you're going to have that moment. So the good part about doing this now is that later on, when you go into the quick preload select and put it on, let's say, rider passenger, if it's you and a partner or a friend riding together, then it'll already have been preset for you, and you don't have to do any math in your head to see where it's at. So I'm not going to mess with all these, but you kind of get the gist of this one. I'm going to go left. And then, again, if you've done anything here that you don't like, you can simply hit the default button, wait for it a second, and it's back to restored and being back to normal. So everything I changed a second ago has gone back to normal again. So that's the meat of the settings mode for riding mode. That's where most everybody tends to spend any sort of time. I would suggest ride the motorcycle for a while and kind of get to know it and see how it feels, and then go from there. So we're going to go into the next, which is going to be the phone setting and the Bluetooth. One of the biggest topics of discussion with the Multistrada V4S is its ability to pair with your phone and also have navigation on display here on the dashboard. It's a pretty sweet and awesome thing that Ducati's worked with Bosch to put on the motorcycles, and it's really sort of changed the way we look at a dashboard on a motorcycle. So some people are sort of daunted by how to do this. It's not very difficult. I'll go over it with you. We're going to go back to the settings menu using our joystick. If it's on the bottom setting here while you were looking at your trip, again, press up on the joystick for about 2 seconds. It goes there. Just make sure you scroll through all this, and once you get to setting menu, press in on the joystick. We're going to scroll up a little bit to find Bluetooth. Enter. We're going to see if our phone is paired. Currently it is not. I went ahead and unpaired it just so we can, for this exercise. So I'm going to scroll up to pairing, take my phone out, make sure it is in Bluetooth pairing mode as well. Every phone's a little bit different. I'm on an iPhone. So we're going to go to pairing, tell it phone. It is looking. There's my phone. And I'm going to go ahead and press in on the joystick. And it has given us a pairing code, so that pairing code is also on my phone. I'm going to hit pair on my phone and also accept here. Now, it'll ask you on your phone to allow contacts and favorites to sync. I would suggest you do that with this. It's your motorcycle, so just go ahead and have that where it'll make it easier to do that. So I'm going to give it yes on that. It also gave me a heads up for Wi-Fi setting. If your Wi-Fi setting is on your phone, or if it's not, make sure it's on. The pairing on between the phone and the motorcycle is twofold. It's Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. That's because they want your phone to be connected to this via Bluetooth, and then the Wi-Fi is what allows us to have navigation. That's a constant setting between, a pairing between the phone and the dash. So I went ahead and told it to join as soon as it gave me the Wi-Fi. So we're on here. We're going to go ahead and exit with the joystick all the way to the left until we come into the main screen. Now, if you notice, the phone is blue. It shows that I have most of my battery and I've got a pretty decent connection on the phone. So the next thing here is going to be Ducati Connect. Make sure on your phone you download Ducati Connect. You can just go to your app store on whether it's an iOS or Android. Look up Ducati Connect. I'm going to say Ducati, and you see it comes up. You want to make sure it's this Ducati Connect. Mine's already loaded, so I'm going to hit open on mine, and you can see it takes me to this screen. So now it is trying to connect to my dash. I know it's connected because vehicle mode just came on. So one little thing to keep in mind, Ducati may be working on this, but you want to make sure that your screen on your phone is never locked, so it kind of grays itself out. But as soon as Ducati Connect is on, you'll notice that it turns white on the scroll menu here. It was grayed out earlier. So if I press in on the joystick, it'll bring me into the Ducati Connect screen on the actual dash. So now you have music, you have your contacts, you have your phone, and then the next step that you need on your phone is Cygic GPS navigation. I'm actually going to go and exit this. By the way to exit out of this Ducati Connect screen is by holding the joystick to the left for about 2 seconds, and it'll go back to the regular screen. Let's go back to my phone here real quick. The other app that you need to download is called Cygic, S-Y-G-I-C. So again, go on your App Store, look up for Cygic. It's a GPS connecting. It's another GPS program, basically like Google. Once that's on there, when you go into Ducati Connect, right now it's giving us a check your phone connectivity issue because I don't have Ducati Connect on my phone because I turned it off manually. So if I press on that, it brings it right back up. So again, my phone is on Ducati Connect. So if you go to Cygic, press in on it, it'll turn on the app on your phone, and it'll bring the GPS screen right onto your dash. Super neat, really cool, kind of a new thing on the motorcycling world. Word to the wise here on Cygic. I'm going to go ahead and exit it here. Again, I'm going to hold left again. This is a very important step that I want to make sure everybody does. Go into the top left, go into settings. Make sure that Bosch MySpin is enabled. If it is not enabled, it will not connect with your phone and the motorcycle. So just go in there, make sure that that little guy is enabled so that you will be able to connect to your motorcycle directly. In here, you can do a couple of things. If you're using your joysticks up and down, you'll notice it's highlighting different functions here between, zooming in or out. Oh, I just turned off my phone. So again, word to the wise, don't turn off your phone if you want this to work. So I'll leave the phone down here. So you can zoom in or out. You can tell it to go into 3D mode, which it currently is, or you can press the joystick in when it's highlighted and now it's in 2D mode if that's what you're more comfortable with. So I'll go back into 3D mode because I like that personally better. Or if you go into the 3 little dots in the bottom right here and press in on the joystick, you can search. Obviously, don't do this while the motorcycle is moving, but you can go in here and use the keypad and search different addresses. I would highly suggest when you're not writing and you're just using the app on your phone, just go ahead and put a couple of different addresses that you want to always have on there. If you're going to do a big trip, maybe do a little bit of research ahead of time and put those addresses there so you can just search as it comes along and you need to go there. So, but you can, again, type stuff in here as you move the joystick left, right, up, and down. And then if you're done with that, you can just go take that out, hold left again, and back on the GPS. If you're done with the GPS and you don't want to just see the basic information about your motorcycle, which it'll show you what you need, fuel, what mode you're in, what kind of preload you have, your speed, your gear selection, and your time. And if the bike was on, the RPMs will be showing on here. Your engine temperature is going to be on here. It'll let you know if your daytime running lamp is on. It's on A, so it's on auto. And then the current air temperature, which is 69 degrees in here in the showroom right now. If you're done with all this stuff on the GPS and you want to go back to your motorcycle setting, you hold left on the dash, on the joystick, and it'll bring you back to your main Ducati Connect page. And again, you hold left on the joystick, and it brings you back to your regular dash again. So that is primary functions on the Bluetooth and the GPS and the settings connection. The other thing that I'm going to go over next is your heated grips and heated seat functions. As I showed earlier, on the handlebar on the right side, there is on the top where your index finger goes, there is a button for your heated grips. If you press that button once, it'll bring up the heated grip functions on the dash. Again, you're going to use your joystick to go to low, medium, or high. If you press down press in on the joystick, it'll select it for you, and then you exit it. Now the motorcycle is off, so you don't see it, but when the motorcycle is on, you'll see it actually start working, and it'll show you a little, little picture of the grips, and it'll have 1, 2, or 3 lines based on low, medium, or high. Same thing with the seat. If you want to get to the heated seats, you just, again, scroll to where it says heated seat, press the joystick in. You can go low or high. If you want it on low or high, you press in and then go left. And now the heated seats are on. And again, if the motorcycle was on, you would see a little seat icon with 1 or 2 lines on there for low or high. The rear passenger also has a heated seat. It is a functional actual button on the seat itself that you press to turn it on or off, or lower. Again, it's low or high on this one. So the actual button, this is the button for the rear passenger heated seat. If it's sitting on the middle, it's off. 1 line is low, 2 lines is high, middle is off. And that basically concludes the Multistrada's dash. If you have any other questions, don't be shy to call us at the store, 503-292-7488, and we'll happily go over this with you in person, but I'm hoping that this video will actually help answer most of your questions. Thanks for watching.